Virginia wide receiver Malik Washington is a guy that's rising up my draft board. We're going to talk about his game, and he's coming up on the show. All of that and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout and a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, guys. Listen, I have a fun bonus show for you on this Tuesday. Sit down with Virginia wide receiver Malik Washington. I'm going to get into his game first, and then he's going to join me for the rest of the show, kind of talk through his game, his background, and everything else, guys. So we're going to have a fun and great show about that today. But before we get into that, got to talk about FanDuel. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Virginia wide receiver Malik Washington, guys, went into the combine listed and measuring at 5'8.5", 191 pounds. Arm length came in at 30 3/8, 9 1/4 on the hand in terms of measurement. But guys, he tested very well. You're talking about 4.47 in the 40, 1.53 10-yard split, 42.5-inch vertical, 10.6 in the broad, and he had 19 reps of 225 on the bench press. This is a dense build. He's built like a running back, right? And guys, one of the best parts of his game, in my opinion, is what he does after the catch. He's physical. He plays strong, good contact balance, but he's a good route runner as well. A guy that you move around the offense. Virginia used him in a multitude of ways, right? Started his career at Northwestern, which we'll talk about because he's going to be following up in the next two segments. Started his career at Northwestern for the first 4 years. Young man is intelligent, academic scholar, all of that good stuff. In 2021, where he really started to find his footing in there in Northwestern's offense, 43 receptions, 575 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. 2022, 64 receptions, 701 receiving yards, and a touchdown. Then you get to 2023. He was targeted 138 times. This young man caught 111 passes for 1,384 yards, averaged 12.5 yards per catch, and 9 touchdowns. He had over 700 yards. Guys, remember, 2022, he had 701 yards receiving the entire season. He had over 700, about 710 or so in yards after catch in 2023. This is a dynamic and explosive young man that can do a multitude of things for your team, right? Motion, the movement, especially with motion being so prevalent in today's NFL. This is a guy I absolutely love to have on my offense, right? You're talking about a slot machine, a guy that can get into the nooks and crannies and creases of a defense, over 30 missed tackles forced on the season. But this is what I love, right? This young man in 5 years, right? In 5 years, he was targeted, 321 times with, you're talking about sure-handed reliability, 6 drops total, a drop percentage of 2.5. Not only that, when you look at just the contested catches, 60 targets, 34 receptions, right? Like, this young man gets the job done, but I love what he does what he's done over his career as well as a chain mover over the last 3 years, guys. Over the last 3 years, 108 first receptions that went for a first down. So you think about bringing the explosiveness, explosive deep ball to an offense. He can do that, right? Double moves if you want to play off coverage, but he's quick. He can absolutely burst and explode out of breaks. I think he does a good job as a route salesman. If you're going to run it out and up, like, I was watching tape on him last week and he was able to do that. And what does he do? Talking about turn your shoulders parallel to the sideline, turn back, look for the ball, sell that, get that defender, that DB playing off coverage to drive on the out route, and then you break it up the sideline, man. A young man that, yes, is he 6'3"? No. Does he have 33-inch arms? No, but he competes and he gets the job done. Yards after the catch, whether it's screen passes, mesh concept, just quick hitters, slants, choice routes, whatever it is, he can do those things for you. And at the end of the day, guys, a guy like this has plenty of value to NFL teams. You just got to give him the rock, give him the football. I love what he brings to the table, man. And again, guys, listen, you talk about productivity, right? Productivity, 12, 13 games. I think 11 games out of the 13 that he played in this year, only 2 games away from, or 2 games shy of 100 yards. Right, Boston College, he was literally 3 yards shy of 100. The very first game was the game against Tennessee, where he didn't have his best game. That was his worst game of the season statistically, with 4 receptions for 29 yards. But after that, he just took off. NC State 170, 112 against William and Mary, 115 against North Carolina, 152 against Miami. Against Va Tech, 115. Like, he just stacked games and performances, right? And showcasing consistency of, hey, if we dial up your number, if we call your number and dial it up for you, can you make the play? And this is a young man that's going to make the play. And I'm excited to see what NFL team he goes to, right? You think about, though, like, he's built similar to Rondale Moore, but I think he's more well-rounded than Rondale Moore was. Mostly because Rondale Moore, if you remember, coming out of college, battled some injuries. So, you think about what we see in Arizona with Greg Dortch being that just reliable slot receiver that can just get open, tough, physical, but also give you some stuff after the catch, whether it's agility and elusiveness or it's just power and physicality to run through would-be arm tackles and even collision players like linebackers and safeties. He's able to make those reads, make those plays and those decisions, and I think he's going to help an NFL team. But guys, why sit here and listen to me tell you what he brings and everything else? Let's hear it from the man himself. Guys, coming up next, Malik Washington, wide receiver from Virginia, is going to join the show, and we're going to talk about all of his game, his start at Northwestern, everything, his mom, his background. We're going to talk about all of this stuff coming up next. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. How is your social battery right now? Guys, I can tell you, for me, I'm in between not drained, but I'm not bursting with energy, not without some coffee. The main reason why is simply because it's been a long draft process, right? I talk to you guys every day. I love what I do, but it is time consuming and it does tire your body out watching so much film, talking to agents, doing the things that I'm doing to bring you guys the best content. So it can be a little tiresome, right? Now, at the end of the day, it can be easy to ignore our social battery and spread ourselves thin, right? It's winter time's over for most of us. We're heading into spring, especially with social gatherings picking up. It can be easy, right? When it comes down to ignoring your social battery. What's the right amount of socializing for you? How do you recharge? Maybe you thrive around people, or maybe you need some time alone. At the end of the day, guys, if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. Find your social sweet spot with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. On a special guest, we have Virginia Cavalier wide receiver Malik Washington joining the show. Malik, man, this has been a fun process for you getting ready for the 2024 NFL draft. Coming out of Parkview, in Georgia, man, you were a multi-sport athlete and a versatile athlete. What went into your decision to choose Northwestern to start your collegiate career?
Yeah, like you said, in high school, it was I was plug and play everywhere, trying to just get the job done, trying to make plays on Friday nights. And I was talking to Northwestern coaches. They had originally recruited me at DB. And then I got later in my high school career and I was like, I don't want to play DB. I want to play receiver. And they got a spot freed up for me. And they said, man, you could come here, you could play receiver. And if I could play what I want to play, get a top 10 education, be in a top 10 city in Chicago, be around great people, be around Coach Pat Fitzgerald, and the staff that he had built there. They had just came off a Big Ten championship berth, and they had all the right things brewing. So it was kind of a no-brainer for me.
No, I love that. And that was my next question was, how important was education in being a scholar? Because that was a big part. 3-time Big Ten All Academic. Like it's the academics has always been a big part of your process and just you as a person. So how important was that when you were choosing your school?
Yeah, I mean, to start, like my mom is a teacher. She teaches in elementary school, and so that kind of got most of that thing started from a young age of just being on time, making sure you had your work done and stuff like that. But then for me, it kind of grew. I started doing my own research and stuff and figuring out, man, education is the ultimate equalizer. Like if I have my education, I can move further in life, whether it means anything or not. Just like having that education, being able to walk into a room with a degree. And now that I have two, being able to walk into a room with 2 degrees, just to say that I did it, just to say that I accomplished those things. I've went through multiple adverse situations and stuff like that, and I got my education. I came out the other end. So for me, education is everything.
Having a mom that's a teacher, man. What's that like growing up as a student athlete for you? Having a mom as a teacher.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. She wasn't that hard on me as far as just like you gotta do this, you gotta study for this, you gotta study for this. But I would say like it just felt like I always needed to do the right thing. I always needed to get a good grade because I knew it reflected, somewhat on her if I came back and she's a teacher and her kid's failing. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it was always just trying to make sure she was, seen in a good way, seen in a positive way, because she truly did care about education. She truly did care about whether or not we were learning.
For sure, man. And of course, we all have like different motivators and stuff. How important was just your mom and your family into like when it came down to those dog days at camp and everything else? Being an athlete, those days where your body is like, man, I just don't want to do it today. How
Yeah.
important was it having the family, backing you up and on your mind?
Of course, man. I think for me personally, my little brother is kind of my why, and the reason why I wake up every morning and choose to be the best person I could be is because of him. He's 18 now, and at that age, especially he was diagnosed with ADHD when he was younger, and so he's kind of all over the place. And the world right now is all over the place, and I know there's so many negative influences that could be pulling him in different directions. So for me, as being that positive influence, is being that person for him to always look up to. If he looks at his older brother, he'll see that a person's getting his education, he's doing the right thing. He's showing up each and every day with a work ethic that can't be matched. And so for me, it's proving to him that there is good in this world. But also, like you said, just the sacrifices my family's made, the things they've done for me, the support they've given me. It's hard to sit there and let up. It's hard to take days off when I know they didn't take days off when I was growing up. So for me, it was kind of super important.
No, for sure. I love that, man. To kind of talk to us, bro. Like, every high school player wants to walk into college as a 5-star recruit, but for you, you were a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. How did that impact your mindset, and did it play somewhat of a chip on your shoulder once you got onto the college campuses?
Yeah, I mean, I won't lie. Like I was big on like the stars and the publicity and stuff like that, and I knew like, man, a lot of those guys that got that major publicity, they ended up going in and they ended up getting jobs and stuff like that. But for me, I knew I was a 3-star coming in. I knew I was gonna have to work. I knew I was gonna have to prove every single day that I belong at this stage. And so I had the expectation for myself, like I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna play. Like I don't care how many stars I had. I don't care how old the guy ahead of me is. I don't care what's going on. I'm gonna come in and play. And so for me, it was just getting there right away and getting to work with some of the veteran guys, learning the playbook, doing everything I needed to do so that the coach could see I was ready, I was available.
Absolutely. Before we get into time at Virginia, being at Northwestern, is there anything with that coaching staff, with the players that you were around, that like just one takeaway, one thing that sticks with you to this day, something that you learned while you were at Northwestern?
Yeah, I think that's where some of the confidence started to build. We kind of had a plaque, right? And every time we walked on the field, we hit a plaque that said, "Trust yourself." And that was really huge for me. Like younger in my career, I was like, bro, I'm not trying to hit this plaque and stuff like that. But as I got older and as I got more involved and stuff in the game plan and stuff like that, when you're playing Michigan at Michigan and stuff like that, your nerves start to rack up. You start to question a little bit, like, man, am I ready for this? Can I do this? And we just hit that plaque every game. And it just said, trust yourself. And I knew, like, learning throughout my journey, a lot of those guys that I was with, the coaching staff that I was with, they trusted themselves and they trusted me. And so I continued to grow. And you can see that in my junior year to my senior year. You can see some of that trust start to grow, some of that production started to grow. And I kind of carried that with me into Virginia.
Love to hear that, man. And kind of, for you being a multi-sport athlete, right? Being in high school, being on the track team, running the 4x1, I think we got state championship. Talk to us. What's more exciting for you, or what was more exciting for you? Getting the baton in the 4x1 or burning the defense for a long touchdown?
Now, I love football, so it's an easy question to answer because I mean anything football related, that's what I want to be doing. That's what's going to get me the most excited. Now, I will say the track stuff was very nerve wracking because I knew like football was me.
Yeah.
I knew I was going like every Friday. I was like, bro, I'm gonna make a play. It's just how many points am I gonna put up? How many touchdowns am I gonna score? Something like that. With track, man, I might run fast today. I might not run fast today. I might get the baton. I might not get the baton and stuff like that. So track was just a huge adjustment. I was very grateful for that I got, kind of pushed into that role, kind of pushed into that sport early on. I was able to do that throughout high school. But, I mean, if I got to choose football or track, I'm going to choose football every time.
Absolutely. So kind of talk to the prospects that will be listening to this, man, like in the young, not just the prospects coming into next year, but even the high school kids that hear this. How important and would you advise them to be a multi-sport athlete or just focus on one? Because a lot of coaches I talk to, they always talk about, man, we try to advise kids to play, if you play basketball, soccer, like play multi-sport because it could always help you on the field. So how important or how big was track in terms of keeping you ready for football in the fall?
I would say it's kind of twofold, right? Like you talk about the coaches wanting you to play or run track, do other sports so it can help you kind of, stay ready for football and stuff like that. And I think that's huge. I think me running track in the spring allowed me to kind of fix up some of the mechanics, kind of just get in shape, in a different type of shape, get used to running longer distances and different things like that. So that when I came to spring ball, when I came to stuff like that, I was good. While other guys were coming off of school lunch pizza and stuff, I was good. I was ready to go. But I also think there's another thing with it. You run track, you play basketball, you play baseball, something like that. You take a break a little bit from football, and that gives your mind a chance to, kind of reset, kind of take some time away from the game and stuff like that. So now you're not burning out. Now you're not all football all the time. You're getting a chance to figure out what else you like, what else you can do, what your other talents are. And I think that's super valuable. That's super important as well.
Now, when you think about it, and we're coming a couple of weeks off of the NFL scouting combine, where you performed out there and performed well. The 40-yard dash is always such a big talking point for fans, social media, and I always try to explain to fans like, listen, that getting down in that 40 stance is like getting down at the starting blocks in track. You know what I mean? Kind of talk about that a little bit because it's different for a lot of guys. You don't have a track background. You're not used to that position and getting down like that and getting into it's a level of comfort that a lot of guys aren't comfortable with, man. Kind of talk about how track translates to, hey, when you get to the combine with your background and you get down there, it's kind of like, I've been here before.
Yeah, I would say, especially for like a receiver or something like that, like, we're not used to being like. There's never a situation where we're in a 3-point stance, and if you are in a 3-point stance, you're wrong. So it's like when you get down in that stance, running track gave me some familiarity with it. Just because I've known, I've been kind of down in the stance. I've had chances to push off before. I was the first leg of our 4x1 team, so I was used to kind of pushing off different things like that. But I still think, especially when you line up at Indy, I think it's different. I think lining up at Indy is completely different than lining up at summer with your workout, with your team. I think it's completely different than lining up at Pro Day. Lining up at Indy on those white lines with all the cameras, all the people, all the stopwatches pointed at you. It's a different feeling. It's a different sensation. And whether you're prepared, whether you trained as hard as you can, like you never know what's going to happen at that line. So I do think track has given me some familiarity with it.
The sports calendar is loaded. And guys, FanDuel is making it even more exciting to get in on all of the action. Guys, right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Let me repeat that. I want to make sure you guys heard me clearly because right now, new customers get $200 back in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 at your disposal that you can use to bet on the NCAA tournament, Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, and so much more. All you need to do is this. Just visit FanDuel.com, FanDuel.com/locked-on and make your first bet a big win. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and make your first bet a big win, because FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Gotcha. So kind of talk like one of the best parts of your game is you, how you transition from a runner to, from a receiver to a runner after the catch, man. Like the strength, the competitiveness, the ability to fight through arm tackles. I was actually just watching your tape last week, and there was a play it was a screen against North Carolina State that you almost took it to the house. When they sprung you. I think Peyton Wilson, one of the linebackers, tried to come and make a big hit, and just to kind of watch you just throw them off of you. That strength after the catch and that competitiveness, where does that stem from?
Yeah, I mean, first we gotta acknowledge Peyton Wilson. That's
for sure.
That's my guy. That's one of the best guys in the draft. But that play, I mean, plays like that for me have just been always a part of my game. You could pull up my little league tape. You're gonna see the same guy. You can pull up the high school, middle school. It's the same guy. Like that's just always a part of my game. And I think for me, it's like that's football. Like that's what football is to me. Like I'm gonna catch the ball, I'm gonna run the routes and stuff like that. But football is when you get that ball and you get creative, you turn it into something bigger than it was. We played throw 'em up, bust 'em up when I was growing up, man. You threw that ball in the air and somebody got to come get me. And I was undefeated in that one. And so I think translating some of that things I did early on, just growing up throughout, my time, especially in Georgia football, man, I think we're the biggest and the best when it comes to football. And you kind of just, that mold, that mindset, that attitude for me is just always going to be there. The first person is not going to tackle me. And if he does tackle me, he's not going to want to play. He's not going to tackle me the next time. He's going to always need, the cavalry's going to always have to come and stuff like that. That I get joy out of knowing, like, man, this dude's having a rough day. He got to tackle me again, man. I feel bad for him. And so I think for me, like, it's a mindset, it's an attitude, and it's just something I've always had, something I'll continue to have even when I get to the league.
No, you definitely, you sound like a running back. That's how running backs talk when it comes down to getting the ball, making that being the collision player, that contact. Yeah. I love to hear that, man. Tell us, man, are there any specific current or even former NFL wide receivers that you study their game to add to yours, and why?
Yeah, I got my three that are, kind of older school. Steve Smith Sr., of course, just the way that he plays the game, he's the ultimate competitor when it comes to football. You got Wes Welker, a guy that's just smooth in his routes. He ran the choice route extremely well. Did a great job with just his patience and stuff like that. Then he also created after the catch. Jarvis Landry. I mean, there's not many guys that are more reliable than Jarvis Landry was, especially when he was at Miami, as far as catching the ball, being a reception monster, and making plays happen. And then right now, I've been really watching Amon-Ra over with the Detroit Lions. I just like the way he played the game. I like the way he played the game in college at USC. A guy that's just smooth, a guy that just makes plays, right? A consistent guy that makes plays. And you can never go wrong with a consistent guy that makes plays. Like, that's it right there.
No, and those are all great choices. Steve Smith's one of my favorite receivers of all time, especially being on the shorter side, a guy that defied the odds because everybody's looking for the 6'3" X receiver, the boundary guy.
What's with that?
Man, it's
why are we only
it's such
looking
an old school thing, man. Like everybody thinks. I think I explained to a lot of people that the game of football, it's not just some beauty pageant where you got to look a specific way to get the job done. There's different roles. I my one of my mentors, I kind of got it from him, and some of the other guys in this industry, like Bucky Brooks, has talked about it too. But you got to build like a receiver core. You want to build it like a basketball team. You want to have your center, your power forward, but I need my point guard. I need my slashing too. I need my wing. I need guys that can do different things, because no matter how great Shaq was, you're not going to win a game with 5 Shaquille O'Neals on the floor. It's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? So I think that's where it stems from, is like people like, well, I know he can do things. And it's a phrase that in scouting of like can and cannot. So it's like, what can you do? What can't you do? What can I coach you to do? What can't I coach you to do? It's like, well, if you're 6'3", 230, I can't coach that. I can't extend the guy that. But for me, I always believe in the fact of turn the tape on and see who balls. And that's the guy I want. I want the baller. So every time I watch the tape, and especially, once you got to Virginia this year, man, like I think you only had 2 games where you were held under 100 yards. Yeah. Like the production, the trust your coaching staff and your quarterback had in you, man. Just kind of like talk to us about that. What is your work ethic like? And tell the fans that's listening to this, and even the NFL people that's listening to this, what type of person and player they're getting with Malik Washington.
Yeah, and I talked about it with Steve Smith, man. You're going to get the ultimate competitor. You're going to get somebody that shows up each and every day trying to beat the person that he was the last day. You're going to get somebody that's not only trying to better himself, but better the guys around him, better his teammates, his coaches, everybody. Like I told you, man, my little brother's my everything. So there's not going to be a day where I say, like, oh, man, I'm not going to go today. Like, oh, man, I ain't going to do that today. Every single day I'm going to wake up, I'm going to bring my best. I'm going to try to be my best. And I think that's just the mindset that I carry into football. That's the mindset I carry into life. Like I was at Northwestern University. That's top 10 academic school. Then Virginia, number 2 public school in the country. I left with a 4.0. Like it's like the different things, the way that I just take care of, my business, the way that I move, I feel like I'm pro ready. I'm ready to come in right now, create plays, be a good teammate, be a good locker room presence, and ultimately be the coach's best friend, the quarterback's best friend. So when I get there, man, it's on, it's ready, it's ready to go. I'm ready to start today. If I could put my cleats on and put the jersey on today, I'd go.
I can hear the excitement in your voice as you kept talking, man. You're ready to put the helmet in the pads on right now. Talk to us about, I always love to, when that time I talk to prospects, I always ask this question: scout yourself. What's your biggest strength, and then what's that area that you've been working at, especially this offseason, heading into the draft and heading into the NFL, that you've been trying to correct and improve on?
Yeah, I would say my biggest strength is just being, like we talked about, reliable, consistent. There 9 times out of 10 I'm gonna catch the ball. And 9 times out of 10, I'm not gonna go down when I first catch the ball. I'm gonna fall forward at the very least, if not get some extra yards, if not go for a touchdown. So that's just a big part of my game. That's an attitude thing. That's something that won't change. I don't care what level I'm playing at. I'm gonna go get some more. And I think a weakness for me, and it's not even really a weakness, but something I just really need to improve on, is just in the blocking game and being strong and through that contact and stuff, especially being a smaller guy. When I see the big linebackers coming towards me and stuff like that, being strong, creating a base, being ready to punch and different things like that. So for me, I've been just watching my own tape, watching other guys, watching smaller receivers. How do they handle, linebackers that are trying to get to the edge and stuff like that on a screen play? How do they handle a corner coming down on a play to come get the running back? How do you clean those things up? How can I be better there than just using this offseason to get faster and stronger? This stage before I get to the NFL draft, whenever I get to rookie minicamp, I want to come in at the fastest I've ever been and the strongest I've ever been. So dial it into the process right now.
Love to hear it, man. And I'm going to ask you the last question I got for you, brother. What is on your pre-game playlist? What gets you ready to go before game time?
See, that's the problem. I don't listen to music before game time anymore. I used to put on the music and, I listen here and there, but then kind of the last 2 years, I've taking off the headphones, I kind of took in the scenery, kind of took in everything that was around me, whether it's hearing guys complain, whether it's hearing guys, buckle up their helmets, their pads and stuff like that. Just getting a feel for the atmosphere and stuff like that. It's helped me stay a little bit more grounded, helped me breathe a little bit more, get more relaxed for the game and get ready to go.
Listen, brother, I appreciate the time, dude. Had a great time talking with you. Good luck in the NFL. And listen, after your rookie year, come back on the show and let's talk again, brother, for sure.
Let's figure it out, man. Thank you for having me.
Guys, that is Virginia wide receiver Malik Washington. Appreciate you coming on, man.
Of course.